Southwest Florida. Welcome back to Mount Hermon Ministries. We're here for a night of historic proportion. The ladies, be about 8 ladies sitting up there shortly, and they'll be going through a virtual symposium here called Racism, Systemic Racism in Her Voice. Ladies are going to talk about systemic racism and things that they've experienced and their children and their sons and people may have experienced and how they go about dealing with those things here in the 21st century. And it's nothing like a woman's wisdom, and certainly nothing like a black woman's wisdom. Leap Is Live is just thrilled to be the media sponsor here to bring you some conversation with the ladies from the symposium here tonight. So without further ado, let's turn over to some of my friends. I'm gonna act like I don't know you guys, so I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. Make sure you hold your microphone up. We'll start way over there with you, Beatrice. I don't know you. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Okay, Mr. Lee.
I think you with various organizations with long names. Name those as well.
Okay, my Haitian brother, you don't know me.
Hey.
My name is Beatrice.
Comment allez-vous?
Bien, et toi?
There you go. All right.
My name is Beatrice Jaquette Castor. I'm the president for the Haitian American Community Coalition of Southwest Florida and newly elected president for the Democratic Women's Club of Lee County.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I've got to get a more in-depth on that. I'll be in touch with you on that. I think I read about it. That's huge. That's historic. Okay, yes. African American now is the president of the Women's Democratic Club of Lee County.
Yes.
Huge. Not African American / Haitian, black from the continent of African descent. Okay, let's go with you, Bernadette. I know you do a wide range of things, including selling some of the best jewelry in the world.
My name is Bernadette Graham. I'm the principal at Northern Palms Charter
That's
High
right.
School, and I'm the owner of Lelise.
Tell them what Lelise is. Plug it.
Lelise is bold, beautiful, and unique accessories for women.
And you have various women who are your Lelise Woman of the Month or something like that, right?
Lelise Beauty of the Month.
Right. See that?
Right.
And they do a great job of modeling your
Jewelry,
thing.
yes.
Now, what you got on right now, all that's Lelise?
The jewelry,
The jewelry?
yes.
Yeah, hold it up close so it can be seen, marketing. And how people can get in touch with you on that.
My website is leliseaccessories.com, and the Facebook page is Lelise.
And you guys need to know my wife wears a lot of Lelise and she loves it. And I love seeing her in it. All right, how about that? So let's go back to both of you now. When I saw the list of the outstanding panelists who will be a part of this evening, I saw you guys' name. I was like, really? But they got some really good panelists on here. Tell us about starting with you, Bernadette, when you were first contacted to be a part of a panel that would discuss systemic racism in the community, and how did you feel about being a part of that?
Well, it was a pleasure to be asked to be a part of it, especially being a mother, for one, being an administrator, and being in education for over 20 plus years. Experienced racism as a black woman.
Really?
And then on top of it, being a leader, being a boss. I mean, you do come across it no matter what you do, no matter how strong you try to fight not to, you do. And I think that the only way we can get past this is through educating and having those hard conversations.
And a lot of times people see you in those powerful positions, like you being a principal, they don't realize that a lot of things you may go through or dealing with as it relates to racism, even getting to that high position that you're in the first place. People don't realize a lot goes into that, things that they never see, right?
Right. That is very true. And, you know, I always say it's a double battle for minority women.
Really?
Because you're a woman. So there's racism, against being a woman, and then on top of you, a minority woman.
Right. And we men, and I'm guilty of that too, and I'm becoming more conscious of it. We men, we don't realize that we don't think about you guys have that double whammy, do we?
It's true.
Well, speaking of that double whammy over there to you, Beatrice, it looks like that double whammy is going to pay off this time for the presidential election. I know you're a big political guru too. You're hoping that President candidate Joe Biden picks a black female?
I am hoping that, Mr. Lee. Yes, indeed. We are ready for a change. When I got invited to this panel, it was such a pleasure. I jumped and accepted a First Lady Cheryl invitation to join, especially now that as minority women and women that are raising young African Haitian girls. We really need to start having those conversations and being comfortable having those conversations. And we can only overcome what we're going through education, like like Bernadette said, because both of her and I went to Nova Southeastern University and did our master's there. So it is through education and talking about it and educating people outside of our community about the racism. That's the only way we're going to overcome it.
I'm glad you raised that point. I want to follow up on one thing that you said. Do you think that, say, for example, you move around in all different circles, all different races? Bernadette moves around in all different races. You deal with all different races in your occupations and in life. And people get comfortable. They are comfortable. They don't really, some white people probably don't even think that we, include myself, experience certain things. But because they are comfortable and will listen to you, you're able to educate people along the way about things that are going on in the community without them getting so defensive. I see you doing it all the time, Beatrice. You can talk to people like that. How has that been for you now that it's such a social unrest in society, and talking to people and saying, hey, told you this is what's been going on?
Okay. Lee,
Mike's up.
Lee, I think with everything that's going on right now with police brutality, this is the time that we are having those conversations. Now, people say that it gets very uncomfortable to talk about racism, but what I'm finding out, because I'm part of different organizations with different cultures, for example, the Democratic Women's Club, the minority of the membership is Caucasian. I would say 90%.
Really?
Are Caucasian women that are made of teachers, lawyers, activists that are part of the organization. And one thing I will tell you is that I have been asked before I even got elected for president. I was sitting on the board for about 4 years, and other cultures and other communities wants to know how to help our community with the issues that we are facing. And being over the Democratic Women's Club now, I could empower and teach other cultures how to interact with our community. And so is the Haitian community as well. Being over the Haitian community as well, I can also educate, because there's a cultural difference between African American and Haitian. And I'm just humbled that I have the opportunity to be able to play a role in what I see it's happening right now.
Outstanding, and you do a great job of that. Now, Bernadette, a lot of people know you as, the lady who sells the wonderful jewelry. But when they hear now, hey, she's a principal, I already knew you were a principal, of course. When you are in that powerful position as a principal, your staff, I don't know this for a fact, but I would assume that your staff may be culturally diverse too, right? You may have some white people on your staff and all of that. How do you go about being a model for people to understand how to deal with the various races, whether it's the children, the staff, and administrators all interacting together? Is it a way to be fair and make sure, okay, stay with that. That's one question, because it's just running in my head. I'm thinking about, two, when you have a black teacher or something who comes in your office, there's a certain, you may try to be neutral and everything, but we black, right? Okay, so, but you still have to
have that conversation.
Go with that. Just talk about how that whole process and how that works being in a leadership role.
My thought, and this is just something I've learned over the years, my thought is, anytime I build a team, and I always know my team is diverse, regardless. And a lot of times my team is majority white.
Right.
We always have those conversations.
Really?
We always have those conversations because it allowed them to be comfortable with me as a black administrator. It allows me to be comfortable with them being their bosses. And when even if I have a minority teacher, and say there's a problem with a teacher that's not a black teacher and it's a white teacher, I invite all of us in to have that conversation. Because sometimes the breakdown is, I believe it's sometimes culturally, and you don't know. And the only way we're going to correct this, as I always say, is through educating and having those hard conversations. And from my experience, even as an administrator, I when I first go in and start building a team or whatever, I always have this conversation with them, because I always tell them, I don't want you to feel like because I am a black woman that you cannot come to me.
Good.
So I think that always leave the door open, and even if if it's a student issue or a parent issue, we've learned how to deal with that together.
I want to ask you this then along that way. Just not that you know, just thinking about it. I would think that because you are black and you've experienced how people can discriminate, you can be comfortable doing that. Do you think that white leaders, maybe principals and things of that nature, who are in leadership roles would be comfortable now? I know they weren't in the past, but now, saying, okay, let's talk this out and just put all the cards on the table.
It's a yes and no answer. The reason I say that is because I've had the opportunity to open up schools in different states, which has allowed me to see it at every angle. There was things I had to learn to walk differently than I did here versus I did somewhere else.
Okay.
I had to learn to say things differently, still getting my point across, but I had to learn to operate differently because it's a different mindset in those places.
But you're saying this part of the country is still behind.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll make sure I put that in there for you.
It is still
right.
behind.
You say I got to walk differently. I'm just saying.
It is still behind.
Okay.
But I honestly say in Florida, it was less to me than it was when I was away.
Before I leave you and get over to Beatrice, I want to make sure I get this in as my final question to you. I know you have a son. I know you're proud of your son. And I know you think about things that could happen to him, particularly if he comes and interact with law enforcement. 2 questions. Has he had any interaction with law enforcement that you've already had to address, or have you already prepped him now for what could happen in the future?
No, he hasn't had any reaction, but we have these conversations. And I think we have them more now because he's getting ready to go off to college. But I pray that I have taught him enough, and I always tell him the best thing you can do is try your best to survive that situation, respect it, and sometimes your voice being silent, you're speaking enough.
Gotcha. All right. Now let's go over here to you, Beatrice. Now I know you have a daughter.
I have 2 daughters.
Okay, because when I was looking at your name on the panel, and that's a superstar, world-class panel of ladies that are going to be up there. I was trying to think who I knew. I knew Tashika had a son. I knew different people had males, and you have 2 females. Would you bring in the panel discussion that going to come to a perspective, and you also will be able to think about what black men deal with as well as it relates to law enforcement and things of that nature?
Yes.
Go ahead. Mic's up.
Mr. Lee, one thing I will tell you is that raising African-American children during this day, this is a conversation that we need to have. It not only from raising a male, but raising females as well, because they're dealing with different issues too. And racism, it's across the board with our children, African-American children, whether or not they are females or males. And this is a conversation that we have to continually educate our kids, keep them educated to be able to keep up with the changing climate.
Have you ever experienced racism here in America? You were born in Haiti, right?
I was born in Haiti. I grew up in the U.S.
Now, let me go back for a minute. In Haiti, racism. I mean, I've been to Haiti, as you well know, but everybody's black. So is racism not really talked about in that way like it is in America, right? Or maybe you can educate us on this.
Lee, there is racism. It might not be the versus white and black, but there is racism within the same culture. Such as it could be if my parents are in the middle class, you have a racism between different social economic.
Got you.
You have racism between light skin and dark skin. Racism.
Well, the light skin and dark skin, that's never going
even
away.
Even within families. So there is racism everywhere you go.
Right.
And to correct you, I was not raised in Haiti.
Okay.
I grew up in the U.S., and I lived in St. Martin until I was 4. moved to New Jersey, Asbury Park, when I was 6 and lived there for 4 years, and moved to Fort Myers when I was 10. Yes, I will say I have encountered racism. And the thing about it is when you encountered it, you call it for what it is. You don't hide it. You don't put it underneath the rug, because when you do that, you allow it to continue. And right now, with everything coming out, this is the perfect time to talk about racism. And I speak with my kids about that topic. The reason is that they do attend evangelical Christian school. And you can count how many African American kids you have in that school.
Okay. What would you hope that people would take away from tonight's symposium? If they take away one thing from this symposium, what you hope they would take away?
Learn about the issues. Learn about the issues that the African American community, our community, is facing. Learn about it. Don't just stereotype, but have an open mind. So to be able to have those conversations and be able to put themselves into our shoes to know how it is to raise children during this climate.
Okay. Bernadette, the